I'm Roger Boone. I'm chair of the of Conwy Sacre. I can confirm that we've done a sound check through our committee officer before the start of the meeting. I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. Can I welcome everyone to today's meeting? We're all attending remotely. It'll be nice to see you all face to face at some point in the near future. As Sally's just said, the meeting will be recorded and will be available for viewing through the council website after the meeting. So if you want to go over anything and check it, you can do that there. You've chosen translation facilities already. But if you wish to speak, can you please use the raise the hand function? And you can also use the chat facility as well. But please note, I might not be able to monitor the chat facility during the meeting. So it's much better from my point of view if you raise your hands. All microphones will be muted. If you have indicated your intention to speak, you'll be invited to turn your microphone on. And if you leave your device for any reason, can you please ensure that you're muted and that you turn your video off? We've had some strange noises in the background on previous occasions. Okay, so just a moment of reflection before we start, and you can use this for prayer or for meditation. Let's think or pray for a vision of our world as love would make it. A world where the weak are protected and none go hungry or poor. A world where the benefits of civilized life are shared and everyone can enjoy them. A world where different races, nations and cultures live in mutual respect, where our planet is protected, where peace is built with justice and justice is guided by love. And let us have the inspiration and the courage to help build it. And may what we do in this meeting be a positive contribution to that. Amen. Okay. So, any apology? Oh, appointments of vice chair, first of all. Yeah. We delayed that because we were actually formulating the action plan which affected those kind of decisions. That we've moved on from there now. So could we have nominations, or please, for a vice chair? Would anyone like to put themselves forward then? I'm not getting a... And we got it. You can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I was just worried. Right. Well, can I invite Colette? Would you consider or stand down?
I think my only concern is that I am on a lot of committees and also on another SACRA as well. So I don't know whether I would be able to give my full time to this post.
Okay, okay. Abdul, you considered it in the past as well, and you're our former vice chair. Would you consider it?
Yeah, I've been doing it for just over 2 years now. I think that somebody else should take the reins.
Right, okay. This is lobbying. Hugh, you lobbied me into this job. The first time I knew about it was when you proposed me at the meeting, so I'm going to do a return on you here.
I'm very glad I got you in post because you've done sort of...
You're muted.
I hate to think that you're leaving so early, and that you could continue again till we finish our structures and so on. That would be a great help if that was possible. But I don't think it's a good idea for me to return as vice chair again, because I think somebody else should actually do it now.
Okay, well, I think, Sally, I think I'm gonna have to move on this because I've got nobody.
Okay, would you like to defer to the
Yeah,
next meeting, and then
we'll
maybe there
defer
can
it
be
to
some
next
discussions
meeting.
prior to the meeting?
We'll get some discussions out there, yeah.
Fine. Yeah, no problem. I'll put it down as deferred.
I don't mind filling in if, you know, if there's something happening or something like that, but I don't think I should.
Okay, all right, I'm hearing you, Hugh, and thanks for that. That's helpful in the circumstances because you never know what's going to happen. Okay, any apologies, Sally?
Yeah, apologies received from Councillor Chris Cater, Tanya Apshawn and Ian Gerard. Also, Julia Buckley-Jones won't be joining us until around 11:15 or 11:30, and Ariane Pierce will need to leave at 11, and I think Councillor Abdul Khan also needs to leave at 11:30.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay. Any declarations of interest at all? No? Okay. Right, urgent matters. You might recall that at the previous meeting, we had decided that we would have a presentation on the AOLE in the primary school. But in the intervening time, we had the request from the National Humanist Body for a representative from the Humanists to come and make a presentation. That's Melanie Morris, and we put that into the agenda, and that is therefore a substantive item on the agenda in front of you. Melanie is not able to attend this meeting. I think she finds a great deal of difficulty in attending meetings during the day anyway. So we have deferred that down the line, and we would like to take, therefore, the presentation on the AOLE from Melanie, from Iskil Gangeli, at this meeting, at the same place in the agenda where the humanist presentation would have been. So if everyone's happy with that, that is actually organised in train. Okay. Okay, the minutes of the previous meeting. Any amendments to that?
Can I just, before anybody makes any comments, can I just draw your attention to the bottom of page 11? I did notice I have referred to Phil as the RE advisor. It should be RE consultant, and I will get that amended.
Okay, thanks for that, Sally. Okay. Otherwise, okay, could I have a proposer there for the correct record? Thanks. Thanks very much, Mary. Thank you. And a seconder? Hugh, thank you. All those in favour? Oh, no, we have to do this in...
That's it, yeah.
We have to do this in groups. Okay. Faith representatives first, please. All those in favour? Okay. Council representatives, all those in favour?
My camera's not working, Roger, but I'm here, so I'll just speak.
Oh, thanks, Julie.
Sorry.
Okay, and yeah, and education representatives. We have the one. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, right. Well, they're accepted. So we look to matters arising. The outcome of the meeting of the Head of Education Services, 27th of May. We met with Lowry and basically put together the agenda for this meeting. But also, we also looked at sections 6 to 9 of the action plan in particular, and she gave us advice with regard to that, which we have incorporated into some of the amendments that we actually will be discussing when we get to that item on the agenda. Okay. You want to add anything on that, Larry?
No, not at all, Roger. Thank you.
Okay. Phil, the EIT meeting, I think was postponed, wasn't it? But what's the position?
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the last one, so it's been rearranged for the 1st of July. So I'll be attending next Friday, week on Friday. Okay.
You delegated to us at the last meeting to Phil and I to do the qualified for life consultation response, and you've had a copy in your papers of that response as well. I don't know whether you want to ask anybody want to ask any questions about that, or whether you were happy with what we actually produced with regard to that. No? Okay. Well, particularly want to thank Phil, who took the lead on that particular item as well. So any feedback from you, Larry, in relationship to the discussions with the GWER Management Board and the supporting framework?
No, I haven't got any updates on that as of yet, Roger, but when I do receive the minutes, I'll bring that to the next ACRA meeting.
Okay, thanks for that, Larry. Okay. The Agri qualification, Phil, what have we got to with that now?
I've heard from
Are we all, just in case anybody knew, are we all, don't worry, if you're not aware of what is the Agri qualification, can you just put your hand up? Right, we are all aware of what that is. Okay, okay, Phil.
So the authors of the new qualification are hoping that it will be ready for September. The NAPFRE and the WASACRE meetings were held this week. Nothing was mentioned because the RVD consultation has taken precedent. So unfortunately, I'm no nearer understood. The promise was that it will be available for September. I think the only issue with that is if it is available, I would have thought they would be advertising that now. If I find out anything more, I think through the education team, we can email secondary schools directly with information about the Agored qualification. But at the moment, the last thing I'd heard was it's going to be ready for September.
Oh, right.
And I think they were confidently working towards that date. So as I say, I think advertising is key, really. If schools are going to use that, it's probably very late in the day for them to decide that they're going to be using that next year. So I think they'll be able to mull over that, look at the qualification, look at the expectations, and make a decision probably for next September.
Yeah, I hope those will get lost because of the delay here, Phil, because it's a very positive step forward, this is. And it feels what many of us think there's a big gap actually in what's currently being provided. So I think we do need to keep an eye on that. Okay, thank you for that. Julia Buckley-Jones, SACRE presentation. Well, it's Julia's school that's going to be presenting, and Hayley's going to be doing that later in this meeting. And the humanist representation will be discussed at a future meeting. We're actually talking to them about getting a contribution, hopefully, to the next meeting, but we'll have to run with our dates. They're going to have to fit in with us rather than us fit in with them because of all of the other responsibilities that so many of you carry. Okay, so moving on. Right, now the action plan. Well, thank you again for what I thought was a terrific discussion at the last meeting, and very, very broad-ranging. A lot of recommendations were actually made. You'll find those bulleted in the agenda, all the areas that were actually covered there, and they have been alterations have been incorporated into your copy of the action plan that you now actually have in front of you. It's not in green, I think, as it was said on, but you can see it's in a different shading anyway throughout that action plan. I don't want to go over them all again because we've discussed them at some length, and we adopted virtually every suggestion that was made. So I just like us to agree all of those now, because that's the new sections 1 to 5 of the action plan. And I'd like to formally agree that those all have been incorporated. So could I have a proposer for that, please? Thanks, Mary. A seconder? Thanks, Hugh. Okay. All those in favour again, we'll take council.
It's about each individual committee.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. We'll take the councillors first, please.
Yes, in favour. Thanks, Roger.
Thanks. Okay. Faith representatives? Unanimous. Okay. And Arian? Thank you. Okay, well, that's unanimous, and that's good. Okay. So we move on to item 7, the Curriculum for Wales Religion, Values and Ethics Guidance, which we're going to have to respond to fairly quickly. So and we need a context for that. So Phil and I have been discussing it. So can you just share what we're suggesting, please, Phil?
Both the NAPFRE, the National Panel for RE, and the WASACRE met this week. These were substantive items on both of those meetings, and we didn't discuss anything else because they are such a big item. The RVE guidance, it is hoped that Welsh Government will, or it's hoped that all SACREs will adopt this RVE as their agreed syllabus, or something very close to it as their agreed syllabus moving forward. So to get this RVE document right is really important in the eyes of Welsh Government and in WASACRE and for SACREs. We felt that with the action plan, it was too big an item to take on within this particular meeting, and I'm proposing, or we're proposing, that we hold a separate meeting on the week beginning the 28th of June, possibly Tuesday the 29th of June in the morning, and as part of the action plan, the county have agreed sort of to fund 10 teachers to meet on a termly basis, and I think that we invite 10 teachers out to that meeting, as well as any of the SACRE members here that would like to attend that meeting, to discuss how we respond to the RVE framework. If you would like to attend that meeting, that would be great. There is a video that's been created by the St Giles Centre over in Wrexham by Libby and Tanya Apshon that goes over the consultation questions. It doesn't go over the RVE framework necessarily, but as each of the questions that are relevant to pertinent parts of the framework, then it is discussed and it is relevant. So I think what I will do, hopefully, is send out, with an invitation to that particular meeting, information, obviously the RVE guidance itself, or a link to it, you've seen it in the agenda pack, and the response form, but also this video that has been created by St Giles Centre, so we can come to that meeting, hopefully ready to respond and create our response. The deadline is the 16th of July, so that's why we're proposing that it's done in a couple of weeks' time, quite early on, because then we can finalise that, get it around members, make sure that we're happy with our response. It's the thing with, I suppose, organisations like this, is that there might be differences of opinion, and those differences of opinion need to be expressed within that one document. It's not like maybe you're responding from a certain group with a particular viewpoint. Actually, we'll have a variety of viewpoints in this, and it is welcome for you to say, well, I don't agree with that. Can I have that sort of referenced or related within that document? So it's important that we get the breadth of views across Conwy SACRE. So 29th of June in the morning, probably 10 till 12 o'clock, if you would be able to make that. Thanks, Roger.
Can I just add here that obviously if we're going to have the teacher, this is consistent with establishing of a teacher network, which is an important part of the framework we've actually building now to take forward the action plan. So it seems sensible, therefore, to go down this line of including them. But as we haven't agreed that section of the plan yet, could I just have an agreement, first of all, about the suggestion that we involve a wide range of teacher representatives to assist us in that process? I just want to formally propose that at this point. Okay, might I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Colette. Okay, thank you.
Can I add, sorry, Jenny and Colette, because of the changes in the law, there is a closer working relationship between SACREs and faith schools than we've ever had before, because faith schools may be required to provide an agreed syllabus type religious education. So I'm just asking, would it be relevant to invite maybe a couple of church schools to that response, because actually it's responding for all of the RE teachers, rather than maybe just the county schools or the schools that an agreed syllabus would have been relevant for in the past.
That's an important point to make there. What do you think, Colette?
That would be great, Phil. We've already got a group going with Church in Wales of some of our teachers. So we've got 2 teachers from each of the dioceses working on the Church in Wales guidelines that will sit alongside. But yeah, it would be great to have some other teachers.
Okay, we'll make that a two-headed proposal then. What the second one incorporated into the first, clearly. Could I have a second for that proposal, please?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thanks, Abdul. Okay. Right, councillors in favour, please. That you, Julie, as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
favour. Thank you.
Thank you. Faith representatives? Unanimous. Thank you. Arian? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'll proceed on that basis. Now, with regard to representation on that group, it is an extensive task of it's good, but people who on this particular group now who would like to join that, Phil and I will obviously be there. Could you put your hands up now of those who are attending? So that's Jenny. Can you note these, please? Jenny, Colette, Hugh, Arian. Okay.
Also,
And-
Alan has his hand up as well.
Oh, sorry, Alan. Apologies, missed that. Thank you. Okay, and Sally as well. Could we also, because of the people not here today, could we send out that invitation and a notification, please, to the members who aren't here today, so
Yep.
they have the opportunity to join? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. We'll do.
Okay. Thanks very much. Okay. Right. We'll move on then. Thank you. Sorry, Hugh. You're muted.
Yeah, can I just mention one thing? I don't know if it's me, but I find that matters are getting very, very complicated here. And as a lay person, not involved as an RE expert or teacher at the moment, I'm not sure where I stand with terms and so on at the moment. And there may be a reason to provide sort of a simple guide, a few sentences, because what's come up so far this morning, we got in the action plan, we got the term RE, we've got the term RVE coming up, and when does that change? We've got the framework, we got the assessment, we got the curriculum, and the curriculum at the moment is split into the statutory part of RE and the humanities part of RE. So I'm afraid I'm quite at a point where I'm not sure where I stand as a member of SACRE. And I think that's changing so fast, and I'm not sure at times what we are actually discussing. So, you know, where do I stand statutorily with RE as a subject, and therefore the assessment as a subject? And, you know, with the humanities aspect of it, is there some way of simplifying, because the documents from WASACRE are very wordy and some of them are very difficult to understand. I don't want to use the word, but there are certain books called idiot guides. I don't know if Phil has come across, you know, the other people are asking, where are we going now? What are all these things that we're discussing? What's the connection between them? Right. And a small paragraph about each, I think, would be a great help to people like me. I'm not sure if I'm the only person thinking this way, but you may be more, you know, able than I am here. But it's a very complicated structure at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I take very much the points of what you're actually saying here, particularly given the breadth of representation as well on this particular group. And we are in the world now of RVE, by the way, religion and values education, as opposed to religious education. But Phil, what about the suggestion that maybe you could produce something quite simple as a sort of, I won't call it an idiot's guide, but really to enlighten people about the kind of framework of the changes and nomenclature and so forth. And then we could present it as an item at a meeting and people could ask questions for any further clarification. And I think basically from what Hugh said, that could be helpful. What do you think?
Yeah, I think because of the situation, because of COVID, we would have historically had lots of presentations on the development of the new curriculum, what the new curriculum might look like, the agreed syllabus, the guidance. All of this would be well presented. We've had the action plan in the last meeting and in this meeting, and that's why we're proposing a separate meeting for the RVE guidance. Just to answer one of those questions, Hugh. The RVE will become statutory from 2022, and it will only become statutory for years or nursery through to year 7. Then it will be statutory the following year for year 8, then for year 9, then for year 10, then for year 11. But some secondary schools might say, well, actually, we'll teach in this new curriculum way right across the Key Stage 3, for example. So that's I suppose that the answer to that question. So RE still exists right up until 2025 or 2026 for secondary school pupils in year 8 as they move throughout school. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the guidance, when you break it down, I don't think it's that complicated. There is a legal section, then there's an RE pedagogical section, and then we've got humanities within the new curriculum. I think that's the big change, is that we're being absorbed into something a little bit bigger, but actually in primary schools, RE can be taught very cross-curricularly anyway. You can sort of mix it in with your topic work. You can sort of do a little bit of creative work with it as well. So from a primary school, it's not that big a leap. And actually, from a secondary point of view, there is this misconception that it has to be taught in a geography lesson, in a history lesson, and that's actually not the case. Schools may say, we'll have our separate religious education, we'll have our separate geography, we'll have our separate history, but we'll combine it under a similar theme. And the what matters statements gives you the what, that gives you the topics and the progression steps. And again, these are the languages, this is the language of the curriculum. And schools are struggling to get their heads around this at the moment because we're sort of in its infancy and because we've had the COVID issue. So we would be further down. And I think as a SACRE, if it wasn't for COVID, we would be far more up to speed with the language of the new curriculum. So what I'll try and do is maybe put a glossary or a little video together. The videos work much better than a written guide. And what I could do is maybe put a 5 to 10 minute little video together. I've just noticed Haley's there and Arian, and maybe getting some of the teachers together just to have this discussion about what that curriculum might look like, or the key elements that SACREs need to understand. So yeah, I'll take that point, and it might be something that I can do over the summer, and maybe put the team together. We can create something for SACRE and for other schools.
Can I thank you for that, Phil? That's a great help, because if we're looking at the plan that we've got, we need to understand what all these things are properly for us to respond to the plan where we've reached and so on. So that'll be a great help. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay. The other thing is the best understanding of any agreed syllabus is when that agreed syllabus becomes another agreed syllabus. So we spent sort of 10 years getting our head around the old agreed syllabus and getting it to be as good as it could. And then when you've got the full understanding of that agreed syllabus, you then move on to the next one. So actually, I've got to say that the best understanding of the 22 curriculum will be once we've taught it for several years, and we're probably moving on to the next one. But that's just the nature of the curriculum, I think.
Yeah, well, cynicism. I don't think we have cynicism as a part of this group, actually, Phil, but understand what you're saying. Do you want to add anything, Larry?
Councillor Abdul Khan has his hand raised, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Abdul.
Okay, Chair, I was going to second Hugh's proposal, but I think it's been accepted anyway. I was going to say when I was in school, it was RE, religious education, as a subject, and full stop. And we knew where we stand. It's like a fashion, isn't it? We try different things, but we go back to the original. So I'm glad Phil accepted. And so thank you. I don't know if you want to take a vote, but I was going to second Hugh's proposal.
Yeah, I think that's unanimous. I think we all agree that will be a useful thing to do, and Phil's already volunteered, so I think we'll take that as read. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, a big welcome now to Hayley Johns from Escort Glangally. You all know Julia Buckley, who's a member of this group, and Hayley's a member of her staff. And we've been really pleased to hear from, certainly Phil and Di from Lowry, about the work that's been going on in the primary sector, and also the kind of clusters that have been working together as there, so that people have been sharing their expertise and experiences. So we're looking forward now to hearing from you, Hayley, with regard to how things are going on the ground. Is there this rarefied place that we inhabit here as a committee, overlooking the whole thing? So, big welcome from all of us, and over to you.
Thank you, Roger. Borodar, good morning. You've had a little bit of an introduction from Roger about myself, but my name's Hayley Jones and I'm a class teacher at Ysgol Glangeli. Thank you for welcoming me here today. The reason I am here is to hopefully share with you how we approach RE in our school. So what I'm going to give you is a little bit of a snapshot of what we've been doing over the past sort of few years. With COVID in mind, things are slightly different. We're limited to the places we can visit and etc. So hopefully you will see that. What I have done, I've pre-recorded the presentation because I am nipping in and out of training today, unfortunately. So apologies for me dipping in and dipping out. But I have shared some slides with Sally, and I've sent the video as well to Philip. So hopefully you can feel free to watch again. But what I will do now, if I have got permission to share my screen and share it with you. 1 second.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Hayley, you will be available for questions at the end of this.
Absolutely, yes. I'm gonna hang around. Yes, no problem at all. Okay, fingers crossed this all plays as it should. Sorry, can you all hear that?
No.
Oh. Let me try it again now, 1 second.
It's very, very faint, Hayley.
Hayley, we can only see the screen with the files on it. Are you able to sort of move your the video onto that particular screen?
Let me
or
just
either share the video. Sorry.
1 second. Let me close this. Can you see it now? No?
No. No.
Okay. Let's scrap that. Let's see if you can see this now.
I've got it on my screen ready to go, Hayley. If you want, Sally,
oh, have you?
Yeah, if you want to allow me to share my screen.
If that's okay, and I will still hang fire to answer questions. If it doesn't work, I will just run through the presentation anyway.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that right, Sally?
Yeah, I've stopped Hayley's screen share, so you should be able to share yours now.
Brilliant. I'll share my second screen. Oh, that's typical, isn't it? Oh, come on. Sorry, it's not come up on my screen either for some reason.
I do have a presentation here. Do you want me to see if I can share it? Is that what you want to be shared,
Yes,
Hayley?
please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not sure you've got the photo slides. Have you got the video, Sally?
No, I've only got a PDF document.
Oh, frustrating.
Shall I see if I can go to the original PowerPoint, hopefully share that?
Sorry about that.
The reason I pre-record is just because I didn't know what time I was nipping in, so I'm quite happy to go through the PowerPoint anyway. Let's hopefully let me get back to Zoom.
I stopped your screen share, so you'll need to click share screen again.
Oh, mine's working, I think.
Oh,
Ah, yeah, something's come up. Well, front screen anyway. Of slides.
Philip, is yours working, or shall I go with the PowerPoint?
If you go with the PowerPoint, we can see it now. That might be easier. Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you, guys. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to show you today is a little bit about what religious education looks like at our school, Ysgol Glangeli. Can you all see the slides?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So a little bit about our school, Ysgol Glangeli. We're an infant primary school of 309 foundation phase pupils, and we pride ourselves in being a warm and welcoming school in the heart of Abergele, North Wales. Our school ethos and our spiritual dimension has always been celebrated at our school, and our school motto is happy and secure as we all learn together. And as a school, we strive to provide rich, engaging and balanced curriculum for our pupils. We've been involved in the National Professional Inquiry Project, so we've been undertaking inquiry-based research to develop the new curriculum that's ahead of us. And we're also one of the pioneer schools, and we assisted in the development of the new curriculum for Wales, focusing on the humanities area of learning and experience. So what does the new curriculum look like for us? Well, of course, we've got the 4 purposes that you can see on the screen, and these are a shared vision for all of our learners. And the 4 purposes are ambitious, capable learners, ready to learn throughout their lives. We want our children to be enterprising, creative contributors, ready to play a full part in life and work. And we want our children to be healthy, confident individuals and ethical, informed citizens. So these 4 purposes, they underpin everything what we do. But today I'm going to share with you a little bit about humanities and religious education and how it looks to us. So here we've got, under the humanities area of learning and experiences, we've got the 5 what matters statements. So what I'll do, I'll read these out to you now. And this is what now we are dabbling with, really. The new curriculum is changing for us, and it's how we're approaching it. So the statements are: inquiry, exploration and investigation inspire curiosity about the world, its past, present and future. That to us means we want our children to develop inquiring minds, and we want to enable them to become curious and think critically. Events and human experiences are complex and are perceived, interpreted and represented in different ways. So to make sense of that for us, we want our children to make sense of the world through a range of rich and authentic experiences. Our natural world is diverse and dynamic, influenced by physical processes and human actions. We understand that the natural world can provide lots of opportunities for our children, and again with spiritual development and well-being. So we like to have that balance within the school, you know, indoor working in the classroom as well as working outdoors. Human societies are complex and diverse and are shaped by human actions and beliefs. We want our children to understand their identity and heritage and develop a community spirit, and encourage children to develop a sense of belonging or cynefin. And we want our children to be self-aware citizens and engage with challenges. Oops, sorry, I just clicked off that there. So we want our children to be ethically informed and to be model citizens in our community. So what does our vision look like in our school? We want to provide experiences that encourage inquiring and inquisitive minds. We want pupils to explore and investigate stories and events, both past and present. We want our children to make sense of the world around them and critically review events and experiences concerned with people and, of course, their own beliefs and the beliefs of others. We want our learners to explore these range of beliefs and experiences, and we want them to cultivate a sense of place and belonging and to develop the spiritual and moral and cultural development. And it's important that our learners have an appreciation of their identity, cynefin and rich heritage in Wales. And we want our learners to consider their roles as citizens and reflect on their beliefs and the beliefs of children, especially in this ever-changing world. So What do we do at our school and how do we do it? We do it in a variety of ways. We're an infant primary school of 3 to 7-year-old children. We want to provide a breadth of opportunities in the classroom, out of the classroom, visiting places and inviting people into our school. We enjoy lots of celebrations and special events, namely Christian faith. So we celebrate the Christmas and the Easter and harvest. We do lots of celebrations around that. And again, other faiths and religions, we learn about other festivals and celebrations such as Holi and other Hindu festivals and Diwali, etc. We want to give children that breadth of opportunity to engage in all of those experiences. And of course, we have collective worship sessions where we share stories from the Bible. We give opportunities for big questions for the children. And it's really important for us as a school to give children the opportunity to share their voice. So we have regular time to talk sessions where children can share ideas and opinions as a whole group and on one-to-one basis. Our family values are really important to our schools, and we want children to recognise and share the beliefs and values and ideals of our whole school. In addition to this, we have immersion days. And this is an opportunity for children to take ownership of their learning, and they share what they would like to learn about in our classes. So we have days where they can enjoy that and give us their ideas, and then we will put that forward for future planning and future lessons. In our school, we want children to be aware of charities and the wider world. So we give them an understanding of Water Aid, Children in Need and Red Nose Day. We want children to be understanding that, you know, all our life might be quite rosy, but there is need across the world. And we want the children to know their own rights. So we've recently become a rights respecting school. We want children to have an understanding of what their rights are, and that we feel that's really important. In addition to those things that we do, we have been recently holding Conwy weeks. And these are a nice opportunity where we pose questions to groups of learners for them to explore throughout the week. One example is, why is dragon on the flag? So what we were focusing on was to develop an understanding of their heritage and their identity in Wales. So the children would research, why is a dragon on the flag? The children would be creating dragons and building castles, learning about their locality. Another question we posed to children was, who was important to us in Abergele? So that gave the learners an opportunity to get outside into the community, meeting people such as the police, the teachers, the mayor, and getting to know them and getting an understanding of what community life and community spirit is like. In addition to Conwy weeks, which we hold about one a term, we have Young Explorers Days. We focus on different areas of learning and experiences throughout the year. One example I'm going to show you now is Taily Do. So these learners were given the opportunity to develop their own spiritual, moral and cultural beliefs during this day. So what does a Young Explorers Day look like? So what we do when we have these days, we have children presented with some themes or questions on a questionnaire. The pupils would tick 3 choices that they would like to experience. So some of the subjects were guess who is my neighbour, and they were given a bit of an insight of what would happen throughout that day to give the children a choice of what they could do in that day. The themes are carefully planned and compiled to ensure good coverage of the agreed syllabus. So we wanted to touch upon all of the areas that appear in the syllabus to provide rich and engaging experiences for the learners. So here you can see some pictures of children immersing themselves in these Young Explorers Days, which I'm going to show you a few slides now of what happened on these days. So each teacher was responsible for one of those sort of themes for the day, and we had mixed classes for that day where the children would go in and immerse themselves into that theme. One of those themes was come to a magical place. So what we wanted the children to do was focus on places of worship and give them opportunities to reflect and feel safe. A great opportunity to develop their own emotional development and spirituality. So during that day, the children would visit the local church. They went for a little walk. They were getting outdoors and talking about the beauty of our surroundings. The children created a mock church within the classroom. Some of the children were making succots outside. So we're crossing over to different religions and beliefs within that day. Another one was a group of children visiting our local beach. So it's within walking distance. So the theme for this class was, how can we take care of God's world? So the children went to the beach. The teacher was scaffolding the learning and telling them how beautiful our surroundings are and how to take care of it. The children noticed the litter and sort of damage to the beach, so they decided to have a little bit of a litter pick. So that was a nice child-led experience. And then they were using the natural beauty in our surroundings, creating artwork. So you can see this sort of cross-curricular elements happening, despite it being humanities and RE focus, you know, linked to the agreed syllabus. We wanted children to have that cross-curricular link there. Another group of children we're talking about what makes them happy, and we want them to celebrate what makes them happy. This group of children were writing little notes about what makes them happy. They were creating jars to celebrate happiness, and they were decorating these lovely jars. Throughout that day, we were focusing on trust and faith in others. So this group of children were blindfolded and they were giving each other instructions. So they were developing friendships and trust in their friends. So that was a nice activity, particularly with early years children. This was an activity that was happening in my class. It was based on a storybook, The Wonder by Faye Hansen. And the story is about a boy with an extraordinary imagination, and he roams the streets, imagining lots of wild and wonderful things. So we were focusing on awe and wonder here. We wanted children to develop a sense of excitement and curiosity. So throughout this day, I presented the children with a box, and inside the box I had random objects such as an old key, a photograph of a child walking barefoot across a road. There was an old hat and a pencil in the box. So what we were doing, we were trying to prompt discussion. We were getting the children to think about, where did the key from? What does it mean? Who does it belong to? What could it possibly open? Just getting that conversation going and to develop that wondrous and curiosity moments. So following that activity, we got the children using their special pencils that they found in the box to create wonderful and weird drawings. Then they used these drawings as inspiration for getting outdoors and creating dens and transport inspired by their work. So here we've got some children making some rocket dens using their imaginations, and boost blasters out of just objects that we have in our school, in our garden shed. Another theme was, who is my neighbour? And this was a great opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, for the children to get out into the community. Here, a group of children visited the residents in Pentremar Park. So that's a residential home. The children were working with the adults, doing craft activities. They were making things. They were in the garden enjoying tea and cake. And it was just lovely to see the children communicating and developing respect for the adults and understanding, you know, that we should take care of our community, and just to develop that community spirit. Here we focused on the Welsh heritage and traditions and culture in Wales. So this again was Thraig Goch, where the children were immersing themselves in traditional Welsh dance and songs and music. They were getting practical, creating castles and flags and shields, just to give them a bit of background and a sense of history about Wales and where we come from. Another one of the themes was, who am I? We wanted children to develop their self-esteem and respect. So the children were celebrating themselves. They were making portraits about what they look like. We had the children talking about their hopes and dreams and aspirations for the future. So they were dressing up what they would like to be. In addition to this, we wanted children to think about their worries, and we wanted to acknowledge their worries and the things that might, you know, bother them at times. So the children were involved in making worry dolls that they could have as a bit of a security blanket for them, and dream catchers, just to give them a sense of people are listening to them, and we should acknowledge our hopes, dreams, wishes, and our fears. Another one of the sessions was focusing on Buddhism. So they had a lovely story. They were practicing yoga. They were making sensory bottles with oil and water, just to develop a sense of calm within the class. And that was a really nice day for them. In addition to all the other things we did, we had one based on the creation story from the Bible. So the children were acting out parts of the day. They were creating artwork outdoors inspired by the days. And at the end of the day, on the 7th day, they decided to create a place to rest. So it was nice links with the story, and it gives certainly early years children a better understanding of what, you know, the story is telling us. And then we've got Come and Celebrate with Me. Here the children were learning about celebrations around the world, different faiths, different beliefs, different religions. So the children were learning about weddings. So we had a mock Christian wedding, we had a mock Hindu wedding. They were learning about the traditions and the sort of scenarios that take place during these weddings. So we had a group of children, some of the pictures are blurry, but they actually took part in a pretend wedding, both Hindu and Christian. And then they had a celebration at the end, and they focused then on holly, because it was a glorious summer's day. So instead of using the powder paint, we made watered down coloured water to celebrate the festival colour. The reason we did this was to give them an insight of how other faiths celebrate things that are important to them across the world. Now, in addition to what we do at our school, we wanted to celebrate what we do and what we enjoy doing. We applied for the RE quality mark in 2019, because we feel that RE does make a powerful contribution to the spiritual, moral, social and cultural development of all our pupils. And fortunately, the RE mark acknowledged this, and they could see we were exploring the big ideas. We wanted children to think about RE within our school. So I hope from the slides I've showed you, I appreciate it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I hope from some of the slides I've showed you today that you will see that we are allowing opportunities for, I've got the what matters statements up here again. We are providing opportunities for children to develop inquiring minds, and we're enabling the learners to become curious and think critically. I hope you would have seen that we want children to make sense of the world through a range of experiences across the curriculum, and that we do appreciate the natural world, and we want to provide opportunities for moral and spiritual development and well-being. And of course, identity and heritage is really important to us, and we want the children to develop a sense of belonging or connecting in our community. And we want the children to be self-aware citizens and being aware and mindful of other people in our community. So what's next for Ysgol Glangeli? Well, COVID has had a bit of an impact in what we do at our school. Some of the visits to places of worship is limited now, and we're limited to the visitors we have in. So we want to up the pace and get back to normality somewhat in the near future. We want to get back to the other Steddfod and develop that sense of community and Welsh heritage. We want to enjoy the festivals and celebrations, and we want to invite visitors back into our school. So the future's bright for us, hopefully. You know, we're still dabbling with the new curriculum, and it's a learning curve, of course, for us ourselves. But thank you for inviting me here today. I'm happy to hang fire and answer some questions, or if you've got any comments, please share them, because, you know, I'm sure it'll help us for the future. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you indeed, Hayley. It was great to see what was really going on the ground as well. I found that quite inspirational, and obviously you've got a gold mark for the quality of your RE, and I hope the new framework that we're setting up will give you opportunities in school to share that with schools that have less experience and expertise in these particular areas. And it was so outward looking and integrated with your community, and I really enjoyed that. So
thank you
indeed. Thank you indeed.
You very much.
Questions, folks? Hugh.
Can I thank Hayley very much? We were impressed when we visited Glangella at one time, and thank you for your presentation, which has a clear pathway to what is needed within the curriculum. You remember, you noted that you were a member of the Pioneer Schools, yeah, Hayley?
That's right, yes.
You're a school for 3 to 7. Does this reflect the feelings of teachers in the old Key Stage 2 stage of primary education as well? Because I remember the time when the government pressed the thematic work for that age as well. Then they returned to subjects through some research and so on, because aspects were getting lost in the curriculum, and that there was a danger as subjects like RE was getting lost in the curriculum. And it was easier to teach in the 3 to 7 area than it was into the 7-11. Has there been any discussion regarding, the good practice that you have on the 3 to 7 in the 7 to 11 area, because different schools structure the curriculum in a different way? What's happening there? What's your feelings there, Hayley?
It's difficult for me to comment with us being a 3 to 7 year old school, but we do have good links with the school across the road, which is 7 to 11. I think moving forward, having that good link with the other school would be really important. But I'm mindful that RE is taught in isolation for some schools, and we do try and develop a cross-curricular approach. But you are right, some areas of the curriculum can go amiss. And we are also mindful of that. And I think by following the agreed syllabus, I think that's key, and constantly referring to that, it keeps us on track. But I think your comment is really valid, and I think it would be great for us to work closely with the next key stage to make sure there is good consistency across the whole of the school.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, Phil?
Yeah, I suppose that there is a cross-curricular approach that has been suggested. As an RE advisor, my questions were, and even within foundation phase for Hayley, sort of some schools would sort of take it separately, and then other schools would embed it across curricularly. There was always that issue of parents withdrawing their pupils from RE, and that's one of the reasons that schools kept it as a separate subject, because actually if you were to withdraw them from a topic subject where RE was integrated with lots of other things, it's very, very difficult to say, well, you can do this, you can't do that, very piecemeal. So for some schools, but with the right of withdrawal moving, it will mean that schools can have a confidence that they can put it in a cross-curricular way without necessarily affecting, or people or parents withdrawing their pupils affecting the wider RE delivery. I was going to ask the question, Hayley, how do you see, in terms of, you don't have to go into any great detail about sort of language or whatever, but in terms of the philosophy, how do you feel that the new curriculum is changing from the older curriculum? Are there any great benefits that you see as a school that's on this process in comparing maybe the old curriculum with the new curriculum, or sort of highlight those positive aspects?
I'm quite optimistic and I'm quite positive, because the What Matters statements, they are quite broad, and I feel that currently, as we're working now, we're not too far removed from what the new curriculum is asking. And of course, we've got the new syllabus on the forefront. So I'm quite optimistic about it.
I remember Donaldson went round Ysgol Llanrithlo and Ross when the document was being presented, I think 2016, 2017, and they work in a very cross-curricular way. They've got sort of an open foundation phase, their cross-curricular themes in Key Stage 2. And Donaldson said that actually if schools were working this way, that's how he envisaged the curriculum. And that was pre sort of the new curriculum. So if schools are working in a cross-curricular way, if they are bringing in the What Matters statement, widens the topics that pupils can access, and it means that they can adopt, and schools can adopt a wider aspect of the learning. But actually in terms of the feel from a school, I think that if schools are embedding and bringing lots of opportunities and experiences into the curriculum, actually, in terms of what the Donaldson curriculum will look like in practice, if you went down that route anyway, you were probably already there. Obviously, there's the progression and the content that needs to be identified with the new curriculum. But in terms of pedagogy, lots of those things were happening anyway, especially within primaries. Secondaries are a different kettle of fish, I think.
It is, absolutely. And I feel we've just got to be mindful of the assessment process now to make sure we're doing it correctly. And I think, you know, chatting with other colleagues, it's really useful to find that balance and make sure we're pitching it right for our learners. So that's something I hope to do in the future, is to keep in touch and see what's working well with everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hayley.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. Any further questions? Can I just throw one in then, Hayley?
Absolutely.
By the way, did you do all the photographs?
Yes.
Ah, got a talent for seeing the right moment there.
Thank you very much.
There were some lovely ones.
We had far too many to share, so unfortunately you've only had a snapshot, but yeah, hopefully once COVID is dying down, you can come into our schools and come and see it in action. You know, it'd be lovely to have.
It was so good to see the enjoyment and genuine interest on kids' faces. It really was.
They are really special days. Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, you work very hard from what you've just said, issues like mutual understanding, growing community, trust, friendship, and so forth. On a practical level, because let's face it, this is a real world, and you almost presented the ideal world to us there. You know, how would you be dealing with issues like prejudice when they occur, you know, within the classroom?
It's really difficult, isn't it? And I think allowing opportunities for those time to talk and explaining things to the children is key for us. We're fortunate enough that we've got kind of open-minded children, and they are very young and they are quite impressionable. So that positive mindset, we cover a lot of growth mindset of our learners. So we continue to do that and to develop and nurture that within our school.
Yeah. I got the sense of that this was an incredibly positive thing that you were doing all the time, rather than combat what you perceive as negativity. You just promote positivity.
That's it. Shift it round.
Absolutely massively. Yeah. Well, thank you indeed for that presentation. I think that's really helpful, and you know, in answer to Hugh's questions really earlier on about how this all fits together, to hear what really actually does happen at one level within our schools was really helpful. So
thank you ever so much, everybody.
Okay, so thanks for that, and we will move on. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be leaving you now, but thanks so much for inviting me.
Okay, pleasure, Hayley.
Take care. Bye.
Bye now. Oh, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, it really was.
Just to note, Roger, I think Ariane has now left the meeting, so you're not Corate currently, but hopefully Julia will be joining and you'll be Corate once more.
Yeah, well, with regard to 6 to 9 anyway, there will be recommendations made, obviously, and potential bits added and so forth. But if we follow the procedure that we did last time, which is gathering those all together and presenting at the next meeting as agreed, hopefully we'll be Corate anyway when we make that decision. So this shouldn't be too much of a hiccup, I don't think, hopefully. Okay, so if you can turn to your action plan, that would be great. Find mine. Okay, you'll see at the beginning of it that first of all that the original document that you actually had has been changed following discussions between Phil, myself and Larry, and therefore all the bits that are crossed out that we felt it was appropriate to cross out in the context of the way we've actually been developing this. Okay, on the funding side, it's really good to know that we actually have that in place to cover what's within the plan. So I'm really thankful to the local authority and Larry in particular for enabling this to to actually happen. So thank you indeed for that. But if we could move forward now to section 6, and we will do it in the way that we did last time, if that's okay, that we'll go through the whole of the section, then we'll invite any questions, points to be raised, any additions and so forth, and then we'll agree that that section at a time and then move on to the next one. Everyone happy with that? Yep, okie doke. So one of the aim of this section was to make teachers, schools, places of worship in the general public better informed about the work of SACRE. And starting at A, we were going to do this by the production of an ORE newsletter for schools and working ORE professionals. We obviously need to decide on its purpose, its distribution, and to establish how to encourage teachers to take ownership of it rather than it being something that was coming top down, and to disseminate it to all teachers, especially those within the humanities area of learning in their schools. And obviously, we need to establish some criteria for judging its success. So the need was therefore to establish a mechanism as well for the previously proposed link with the LA newsletter. I think it was Lowry that proposed that we could do that at a previous meeting. So that needs to be established as well. And we felt that the appropriate place for all this was this new teacher network that we're actually setting up, as they are the focus of all of this, to decide how best to produce and to implement it. So, any thoughts on that? Any questions? No, sorry, I said I'd take us through the whole thing. So B was to establish criteria and a process for the recruitment of minority religious and humanist recruitment to our SACRE. I think that's something that Abdul's mentioned in the past as well. And we would therefore, at some point, review the current constitution and advise the local authority accordingly in light of the new legislation, which particularly affects, I think, humanism as well, and its potential place within the SACRE. Obviously, it would be very good to establish links with the local Cateens, Churches Together organisations, that's what that's all about, and thereby their constituent churches and other local religious and non-religious organisations that do support religious education in schools. I've got quite a lot of contacts there already, so we're well placed within that. I actually am effectively linked into the local Cateen here, and I'm in a position to do that. You might want to add some there possibly. That we need to decide on how to raise awareness, particularly amongst teachers, of our SACRE's annual report and to determine its most effective dissemination. We thought, therefore, that the educational improvement team with Phil going along would determine a strategy for actually doing that. And Lowry felt very much that the primary strategic head teachers, secondary special head teachers groups would be key in this as well, which is why I'm quite keen on making sure that we do have the representation of them at these meetings as well. Press links, again, I'm in a good position currently at the moment with regard to that, because with regards to my other responsibilities in various organisations, I've got very strong press links on a weekly basis with the press. And to develop strategies for the recruitment of new SACRE members, picking up Mary's point earlier, and we need to obviously at some point make this a point of discussion and agreement about how we're going to best go about that. That's for us to decide. Okay, that's section 6. So any questions, thoughts, additions on that section?
Can I come in, Roger? It's Lowry.
Yes, Lowry.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I did want to come in when just after Hayley, and I'd just like it for the minutes that I would like to formally thank Hayley as well for that excellent presentation, and you could see her commitment and passion. So just that we have that minuted.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, Roger, I just want to come in on some of the agreed actions that we have as part of this plan. And I think while it's excellent that we're forging these close links, I think we need to be mindful as well of the current context in terms of overloading schools with information and probably requests to take part in certain programmes of work. At the moment, we're still very much in response mode. We're not yet in that COVID recovery. So I just want us to be cautious and mindful in moving forward around the information that we're sharing at our strategic head teachers meetings. Because as a central team, we've made a conscious decision now that we at the moment are just COVID response and working with schools to get our leaders through this really difficult time in this local authority. So just to make the group aware of that.
Yeah, well, thanks for reinforcing that again, Lowry. I mean, I was questioned at the last meeting, I think, about timelines with regard to this. And I said at that point that it was inappropriate to be establishing definitive timelines because of the COVID situation and the pressure that schools were facing. So certainly that as we put this together, we're going to be very mindful of that. And obviously at any particular point, we'll take advice from you if we move too quickly in any direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I chip in there, please, Roger?
Yeah, Phil.
Just to ask Lowry, I suppose taking that point, and it's a very, very important point, I think, with the resurgence and bubbles, my son in Llandrillo and Rose, his parallel year group had to go home a couple of days ago. So he's in year 3 and his parallel year 3 have gone home. So it's happening all over the place. And I work with a lot of schools in Flintshire that are going through the same thing. And I think those bubbles, I think a lot of parents feel as we are easing that things are easing in schools, but actually the same bubbles, and as soon as you get a track and trace response, then all of that bubble has to go off, and so actually this is going to happen for the foreseeable future, I think. But just to, Welsh Government have obviously they've created this deadline of the 16th of July for the RVE consultation, and I just want to sort of confirm, I suppose, that we can try and get some teachers together, because although taking all things into consideration, it's really bad timing. It's also essential that we sort of get this right. So it's sort of laying back certain things, but sort of finding out what's on the to-do list, and the RVE consultation, just asking, it sort of seems to be an important aspect.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. And I think we very much need to prioritise what's essential at this point in time. We've certainly withdrawn lots of our business as usual processes at the moment, and are just doing what we statutorily need to do as required. So yes, I agree that in terms of some of Welsh Government's deadlines, that there is a need to complete these pieces of work. But I think in terms of general information, we just need to pull back from schools a little.
Yeah, but are you happy with, we've made a proposal already on the agenda here?
Yes.
With regard to pulling those teachers together to make a professional response. Are you happy with that, Lowry?
Yes, and I think as well, Phil, you know, in terms of their own professionalism, I think they, you know, if they are finding it too challenging, you know, they'll share that with you directly.
Okay, well, mindful with the cautionary words that we've actually had there, which relates, of course, to the time, not whether we do these things, but the timeline that we proceed with regard to these things. I'd like to agree section 6 with that cautionary word underlying it. Can I take professional representatives? We haven't got one, no, okay. Right, I'm going to ask therefore, are there any additions or changes that people would want to make to that section?
No, sorry, I'm Annis, I represent Bangor Diocese.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that there is a balance really in terms of the schools represented in terms of the Welsh medium, because I know in terms of some of the issues that we've kind of identified in Bangor Diocese, and it includes a Scop and Kai in some of the schools, is the issue about the definition of Cynefin, because I think there's a concern and I share that concern really, that language and cultural identity is not an add-on, it should be a golden thread. And I think that there are some kind of challenges when it comes to that in terms of the identity and heritage that we kind of have routinely been teaching within schools. And it seems to be, I'm not sure what the emphasis is in terms of the consultation and the feedback back, because the issue is the approach has been that we can just translate English medium resources to Welsh, but there's a greater issue than that, and I think that I want that to somehow to be fed back and for people to have the opportunity to air some of their lessons learned and concerns from kind of piloting some of the issues really. So you know, it's just to make sure that we've got to balance. Because I noticed in the presentation, it was kind of all the resources were English medium and it's an English medium schools. And sometimes this message is not, because it's a difficult message and it's a message about resources and investing in new work as well and commissioning new work. So I think it's important for that to be fed back as well in a consistent manner.
Julie, are you still with us?
I am here, Roger, yes.
Yeah, this has been a major issue, hasn't it, on the council for looking at Welsh language implementation, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, we've got the WESP now moving forward, so it will all interlink, I guess, and work together. And our plans here are actually really positive. I don't know if Lowry wants to come in on that a little bit more, but
Yeah, I will. And Anest, I think mae dy bwyntiau di'n rhai dilys a dwi'n cytuno'n llwyr. I think Anest makes really good points, and I think it's important that that's fed back as part of the consultation formally, Anest. I think that's the beauty of having a fully bilingual central local authority team, Anest, that works really closely with our chosen consultant, Phil, because we can ensure that the representation of our schools on these working groups consists of the range of varying schools that we have, both linguistically, also in terms of faith, and also in terms of whether they have different statuses, i.e. foundation status or local authority. So we do make assurances that we do have a good cross section of all of our schools on these working parties, and that's why Phil comes to us with these nominations, because we as a central team know our schools and know how we can engage Phil with that range.
Yeah. So what we'll do, Anna, there, we'll just add to ensure that there is Welsh language representation in these working groups. Yeah.
Yes, and it's really, people are addressing it, but I think that there needs to be a consistent message fed back to Welsh Government so that they, equally, it's their responsibility to ensure that the tools are there to support the, the vision and the curriculum really as well.
Yeah, I think there's certainly from looking, I went on to and listened to a meeting recently from the council when I was ill, and this council is very strong, I think, and Julie would endorse that in this particular area and pushing it forward. Hugh?
Gai egluro yn Gymraeg yn yma. Dwi'n cytuno bod yna rhai pryderon ynghylch yr ardal yma. Mi oeddwn i'n poeni hefyd hefo rhai cynrychiolwyr oedd ar y grwpiau arloesol yma hefyd. Mae'n dibynnu, mae cwbl yn greda i wedi bod yn dibynnu gormod hyd yn hyn ar yr ysgol unigol yn hytrach bod o'n bolisi cyffredinol. Felly, dwi eisiau siarad fel aelod o grŵp ffydd mewn gwirionedd sydd o gefndir Cymraeg felly, ynde. A mae'r cwbl wedi glwad i hyd yn hyn i raddau ddim wedi ystyried hynny. Felly, da ni'n colli yr traddodiad Cymraeg yn yr hyn i gyd. A dyna di'r ofn sydd gen i a dweud y gwir. A dweud y gwir, oedd y draig yn fan'na ddim byd i wneud â crefydd mewn gwirionedd, oedd o'n ymwneud â addysg bersonol efallai, oedd o'n wers da efallai, ond dwi'n poeni am yr ardal yma, a dweud y gwir, da ni'n colli yr holl traddodiad Cymraeg sydd gynnon ni, y traddodiad angydffurfiol lle dwi'n y cwestiwn, hefyd ynde, a bod ni'n glastwreiddio yr agwedd Gristnogol, dim bod fi'n erbyn un byd arall, ond da ni'n glastwreiddio yr elfen Gristnogol oedd gynnon ni cynt felly. Ac os ydyn ni yn mor agored â hyn, mae rhai ysgolion yn mynd i fod yn fwy traddodiadol oherwydd bod yr athrawon unigol neu'r pennaeth adan unigol yn credu hynny yn yr ysgol. Ond fel arall, mi gewch chi mewn ysgolion eraill rhai sy'n yn poeni dim am y traddodiad Cymraeg. Felly dwi yn croesawu bod Conwy a'r tîm ac yn y blaen yn edrych yn fanwl ar hyn, a mae rhaid rhoi o i mewn, brawddeg i mewn, ym mhob un agwedd, yn ytrach na dweud ar ddechrau dogfen bod rhaid cael yr elfen Gymraeg neu beth bynnag i mewn ym mhob peth. Mae eisiau atgoffa trwy'r dogfennau i gyd beth sy'n bosibl. A hefyd felly, bydd rhaid i roed syniadau beth sydd ar gael mewn ardaloedd yn bydd, achos mae ardal lle dwi'n byw, Llanrwst efo yma, yn llawer gwahanol efallai i ardal Llandrillo yn Rhos er enghraifft felly. Ynde, ac lla bod gen i'n gweld mwy o werth yn y pentrefi gwledig yn ein traddodiad crefyddol Cymraeg felly yn fanna. Dwi'n poeni am hwn yn gyffredinol, a bydd o'n dibynnu ar agwedd yr athro unigol yn y diwedd, os nad da ni yn rhoi polisia penodol a gwybodaeth benodol i ysgolion be ddylia ddigwydd felly. Lla bod fi'n swnio'n galed, ond dyna'r pryder sydd gynnon ni ar hyn o bryd, bod yr elfen Gristnogol neu'r elfen ffydd yn cael ei golli i addysg bersonol a chymdeithasol yn yma felly ynde, fel mae ffordd mae Estyn wedi mynd i lawr y ffordd yn fanna felly. Ond dwi'n siarad yn fanna fel aelod o grŵp ffydd, a mae'n ddigon teg yn dydi. Da ni sôn am y athrawon i mewn, ond chydig iawn o sylwadau sy'n cael ei roi o ran grwpiau ffydd bydd y gwela i yn sacre ni ar hyn o bryd. A da ni'n brin o gynrychiolwyr hynny hefyd yn yma felly. Diolch Roger, mae ddrwg gen i am y bregaeth.
No, it's not as well. Yeah, I share some of your concerns, Hugh, with regard to this, because as you've already indicated, it is very much up to individual teachers from the bottom about how they tackle this, and therefore their individual perspective could easily quite dominate. And whether that actually includes an understanding of the Welsh cultural identity. I mean, you walk through irrespective of church attendance, you walk through any village or town in Wales, and there are chapels everywhere. And some of them are closed or whatever. But it's been a really important part of Welsh identity over the last 200 years. And I don't actually see much of that in this particular curriculum. Hence why you'll see it. You'll see the addenda that I put in at the end, and in section 9 as well, that to supplement the agreed syllabus, which we'll eventually get to. But Phil, yes, you're going to say.
Just to say that the curriculum doesn't actually contain very much for anybody, whether they're Welsh schools or English schools, because it's up to the school to create that for themselves. So in terms of the Cynefin, and I understand a sort of interpretation or misinterpretation of that particular phrase. One thing, I'm just making a list now of the teachers that we'll be inviting to this meeting. There's a few more that I need to add, but we've got Arian from the Welsh Secondary School within Conwy. We've got Hayley, I think, who's given us the presentation. I'm going to ask the lady, my wife's worked with her, I've forgotten her name now, but the head of RE in Aberconwy, because we've got Ian on this group as well. I know the head of department in John Bright's very well, so I might invite him as well. But then we've got Paul, who used to sit on this board from Llanfyfechan and Pantyredin. I've worked with his teachers. I'm hoping that they'll be able to send somebody. We've got Sam Shaw.
Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew, son of Paul. I think I've called him Paul to his face and got that wrong before. We've got Sam Shaw as well. I know that Ian has attended some training I've done with the church in Wales, and they'll be quite keen. But if, and thinking about Jenny, Annanest and Colette, if there's anybody that you think that would be suitable for this training, and if I can copy you into this email, or if we can sort of work together to try and provide the impetus, if you like, for teachers to come to that training on the 29th, that'll be a springboard to something else, won't it? If we can get those teachers on board, then we're in a better position to create something moving forward. I remember I came into the local authority under the Gavin Cragen was the advisor at the time, and I was immediately put on to actually creating resources as a result of the 2008 curriculum, and we had a wide variety of people representing schools on that, and that's obviously key. When a new agreed syllabus is going to be delivered, actually the supporting materials represent the local authority in its widest form. So I'm keen to make sure that continues.
I was just wondering, Phil, and I don't want it to be a Church in Wales overload, but whether, I was going to have a discussion with Jenny outside the meeting really, whether Tracy Richardson-Jones, our schools officer, could be included, because she's the one developing our resources within Bangor as well, and is an experienced church school head as well, and is fluent Welsh speaker and has developed resources through the medium of Welsh. And it'll be a stepping stone, and maybe it would be useful, if capacity is an issue for Ian and for Matthew, that she could fill in as well and coordinate the response, if that's okay.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ines. I think Hugh was making 2 points there. One was endorsing what Ines was saying about Welsh medium schools, but also particularly as well about the Christian perspective within the curriculum as well, and that how easily that could be lost. And I think that's something that we're quite mindful of. I don't know anybody else wants to say anything on that.
Well, that could be.
I can, sorry.
Yeah, noted as a faith aspect as well. That's what I'm worried about.
Can I just chip in quickly?
Okay, Jenny.
Yeah, we've got some great examples actually, and we have worked with Tracy in Bangor and created many resources, including actually one on the Welsh Dragon, and we've brought that into identity and sort of parts of the Bible that talks about how we're all unique and different. So there are ways to link, but we've got some great work going on in our schools, in our Welsh medium and our bilingual schools, and we've just had a project gone out now about the translators of the Welsh Bible, which has been really well received. And what's great to see is, and this is what our Welsh medium wanted, is the sort of the charter iaith idea. So they're kind of promoting the work of their school and the Welsh language to their contemporaries in English medium schools, because of course all our children are Welsh learners, so it's great that our schools, that especially where that is their first language, and those children, have got such a rich heritage of their own language and their own culture to share. It's been phenomenal to see that. So I think there are good examples and really great practice going on. These are very early days, and I think we just have to allow our schools to thrive during, as we've all heard, some really challenging times for schools to be working with a new curriculum during a pandemic. They're doing phenomenally well, and these are very, very early days. So I think we have got the people. We just need to come together, work together, and make sure that our children are getting what they deserve. Really, sorry, come off my soapbox now.
Yeah, Roger, can I just come in there as well, just to say, I appreciate everything that's been said. The new curriculum next year is really exciting, and this is going to really, kids for so many years have been following a very strict set curriculum that's been nationally put together. This is going to be all about being immersed in your local community and understanding the local culture, the language, the history. And it's really exciting if it comes together. Obviously, it's not going to just happen magically September next year. It's going to take some time to really embed within schools. But I'm excited that young people locally will really begin to understand, from all different perspectives, why the local area is the way it is, the culture, and that will be mixed up of all sorts of things. So it will be obviously the history in terms of the chapel and everything that's helped to make our local areas the way they are, but it will also prepare them for a work life and an understanding of the community and what options are there. So it's really exciting. We're at a really good point obviously COVID's had a massive impact on that, and it means that it may be that it will take a little longer to adopt. But yeah, I think we're in a really good place where I really believe in the new curriculum, and I believe that young people will feel that much more a part of the area where they live and understand the culture and history of it. So yeah, I think it's an exciting time, really.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that endorsement, Julie. And also to note as well, Jenny, that, you know, the teaching, you talked about some exciting examples of good practice that's going on. The establishment of this teachers network is going to allow the, you know, and facilitate the dissemination and sharing of that good practice. And I think that's a really good step forward as well, in terms of, you know, the framework that we've actually set up to support this. So I think with that obviously change, and not change, that addition, that we make sure that there's appropriate Welsh medium representation on the networking groups. I'd like to propose the adoption of section 6.
Just to note, Chair, Julia has joined, so we are Cora again now.
I can do it then. Right, great. Okie doke. Okay, in that case, right, I'll take local councillors first, please. In favour?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Faith representatives? Okay. And teacher representatives? Yes. Okay. So let's fully agree with that one amendment. Okay, we can move on to section 7 then. That's, we felt that it was important to develop links with other SACREs, with WASACA, with NAPFRE, and other bodies supporting the development of quality ORE in Wales. In other words, that's building the network to support the development, really, of the subject within schools in this new framework. So we said that if a system of regional consultants is implemented, we will need to determine the most effective way of using their support. This is still something I gather, Phil, that's still in process at the moment in terms of being determined. So we need to wait, therefore, for Welsh Government decision on professional learning and its relationship to RVE.
This might need to change, Roger. The regional consultants was banded around by NAPFRE and by WASACRE that the professional learning offer from Welsh Government may be able to fund a number of, I suppose regional consultants is a very loose term, but I think what will happen is they've agreed a considerable sum of money, and WASACRE, it'll be in the minutes of the next meeting, I think, of the WASACRE meeting. So in the meeting that we've just had, Welsh Government have agreed a considerable a sum of money to professional learning for religious and values and ethics in the new curriculum. But how that will be implemented will be a mixture of the local authority, but probably consortia. The consortia may receive the money. Now, I know there's a breakdown in consortia relationships down in the south, so it might be the local authorities receive the money to provide that training within those particular local authorities. But in terms of it being quite clean and having a consultant in this area as paid for by Welsh Government, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think GWER will receive a suite of money. They will be given a particular specific criteria in which that money can be spent, and it'll have to be for RVE, but it'll be for them to discuss how best that might be delivered. That might be delivered through teachers, it might be delivered through myself, being a GWER employee, it might be delivered through, I don't know, they might take on St Giles as an outside person to do some training. So A reads slightly awkwardly now, I think, as a result of the meeting that they've had. So it's going to be, we will still need to determine how to effectively use the offer provided, but we need to understand what that offer is first. So maybe that first sentence can go, if a system of regional consultants is implemented, get rid of that because we don't know what that's going to look like, but we will still need to determine the most effective way of using probably not their support, but the support that's been provided by Welsh Government or being paid for by Welsh Government.
How will, Lowry, how will we relate to accessing that to support the work of teachers?
We'll work with Phil on that and we'll find a way, Roger.
Okay, Okay. So
I don't see it as an obstacle that is insurmountable at all.
No. Okay. So we just need to reframe that for the next meeting, really, in relationship to where we've moved to with current agreements with Welsh Government. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll do that for the next meeting. Okay. Well, with that qualification, let's move on to. We were going to talk about exploring the possibility of links with ORE consultants like Phil, and a specific link with Wrexham Sacre. That's still in place. Libby's still there. She's full-time. In order to enhance the sharing of professional support, especially using Zoom. And so we've got a link into Wrexham there, and we've got a link noted, if you noticed in the text there, an additional one, because link is, Phil is the consultant for Denbighshire Sacre. So
can I chip in here as well? Sorry, Roger. It was a matters arising, but the WASACRE website has been updated and it is now ready to go. It's the same address as the previous one, which is www.wasacre.org, but it's had a complete facelift, and they've also updated the "So You're Joining Your Local Sacre" document. So this was mentioned in a previous meeting, and we were hoping to create a little video or something and try and adapt it for ourselves. Either way, the document has been updated. I haven't looked at it in any great detail. I saw the draft version, but I've not seen the final version other than having a look at it on the website. But it is available on the publications section on the WASACRE website. I just thought it was fitting really to mention that under this section of working with WASACRE and NAPFRE.
Yeah, we'll add the links there with WASACRE into that particular section as a reinforcement of what we're trying to do there then. Okay, so thanks for that, Phil. So that's it on that, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So can we agree with those amendments that have been suggested and which will be before us at the next meeting? Can we just get agreements on that section then, please? Councillors? Yeah, thank you. Teachers? Yeah, okay. Faith representatives? Great, okay. So that's fully agreed. So we can move on to section 8, which relates to the operation of Sacre. To encourage the integration of teachers into the proactive work of our Sacre, and we've been talking about that at some length already today, by advising the local authority to provide funding for supply cover for the teachers' roles in the work of Sacre and for their attendance at relevant conferences in order to enhance and develop the teaching of ORE in the local authority, and to discuss the delegation to our professional, this is a bit more fundamental, to our professional members, the oversight and responsibility of some areas of our oversight and advice in the continued absence of an advisor. This will give us a better picture of what's going on in our schools on the ground and encourage our integration with professional networking, supporting the delivery of our VE. And the actions will be that we should make it possible for a teacher representative from Sacre to attend WASACRE, so we have a professional representation going from this meeting as well as any other representation. That Conwy would fund the teachers attending Sacre and WASACRE meetings. The teachers network, the Phil in collaboration with the teachers network, and they're going to be key to this, to create a draft plan of oversight and advice from teaching professionals with regards to this. And we've added that teacher network members will represent the various secondary primary clusters. Larry felt it was quite important that we get, we made sure that we encompass the breadth of those clusters, and rather so that we get a full picture of what's going on in the local authority. So any questions or thoughts on that first? No? Okay, we all seem to be on board with that. Okay, we'll propose that is then adopted. Councillors? Thank you. Teachers? Thank you. Faith representatives? Okay, unanimous. Okay. Right, to continue to develop our links with schools by holding SACRE meetings in them, preceded by a presentation of their work in relation to ORE, and to discuss extending this mechanism to faith centres in order to raise our own awareness. This is something that Phil had already started, and those of you who've been on this group for a while have noted that we have been out to schools. He was quite keen to extend it to faith centres. I think that was endorsed by Abdul at a previous meeting as well. So purely therefore to drop a rota of SACRE meetings in schools in consultation with SACRE members. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, and then if you look at section C, most of which has been crossed out, but the chair of the Education and Scrutiny Committee and the Cabinet Member for Education to be a member of Conwy SACRE. I think that is currently the case though, isn't it? That is currently the case, so we're in a good position. I think we just like to kind of hold that position for the future because it clearly makes sense in terms of the overall management structure of how we deal with the work of SACRE.
The chair of the Education and Scrutiny Committee is not a member of SACRE. That is Councillor Phil Capper.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it says the chair. We have a member, don't we? That's
so we
right.
have Councillor Julie Fallon, who is the Cabinet Member for Education, but the chair of the Education and Scrutiny Committee is actually Councillor Phil Capper.
Do you want to change that to a member of the Education and Scrutiny Committee is a member of Conwy SACRE?
Yeah, we could put chair or member. Yeah, that leaves the ideal in place. Yeah, chair or member that will cover us then. Yeah, great. Okay. I think, right, so that's to discuss the possibility of a mechanism for obtaining feedback from students of their experience of ORE in our schools. That's going to be done by the pupil questionnaire. I think I think Lowry in particular encouraged us to get a bottom-up view of what was actually happening, particularly getting therefore the pupils' perspective on what was happening. And therefore we felt that the appropriate place for actually discussing that questionnaire and clarifying its purpose, who owns it, would be the teacher network. We put in there SACRE for monitoring or schools for self-improvement. Personally, I think it's both, but we'll get some feedback from the teacher network with regard to that. And then on the I put in to discuss a proposal to proceed SACRE meetings with 20-minute forum meeting, providing an opportunity for members to raise matters of mutual concern with myself, the chair, and the ORE consultant, and the councillor linked to the Education Committee. And I was just conscious really that there is so much going on sometimes, and some things can be quite contentious. And the only forum we really have for that is within the meeting. But there are things that people might want to ask questions about or actually put ideas forward. And by providing that 20-minute block before a meeting, that would enable that to happen. We're obviously going to have to delay that until if we agree, until we actually get back meeting face to face, because any exchanges won't be, they will not be private in that sense. But that was just a way forward of enabling, perhaps widening some of the kind of understanding that Hugh was kind of implying earlier in the meeting as well. So those are the proposals on the rest of that section. Any questions? Okay, well, the rest of that section now on 8, I should have taken all these together, so my apologies. But the rest of that section 8, that's B to E. Councillors in favour? Teachers? Faith representatives? Totally unanimous. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we can move to section 9, which was to review the mechanism. This is really quite important, actually, and it's going to be on us fairly soon. But to review the mechanism and process by which we review our agreed syllabus, and that is by statute one of our main responsibilities. So if we look at the sections, this is going to be particularly important as schools engage with the delivery of the Curriculum of Wales 2022 and the proposed integration of RE within the Humanities AOLE. We will need to take a close look at the new supporting framework for RVE when it's produced and decide whether we wish to amend or develop in any way in the supplementary guidance we offer to schools. That's picking up an opportunity there for Hugh, for some of the things that you've talked about today. The level of professionalism needed for this isn't normally to be found in SACRAs, although some of the proposals in this action plan do seek in part to remedy this. But we think it's fundamental there that the teacher network that we're sending up is consulted and that teacher network members are going to be represented on the agreed syllabus conference so they can make a professional input. B, to contribute the professional members of our SACRE, the chair and the RE consultant to the agreed syllabus conference set up for the purpose of review and via dedicated separate meetings. This is such a big issue this time. When we've looked at reviewing the agreed syllabus in the past, we've just added it onto one of our normal meetings. It's not appropriate at all to do that this time. But this is going to take a good deal of time and professional input. And we're also to consider including senior LA officers and additional teacher representatives with specialist knowledge, as ultimately the revising of the syllabus should not be the responsibility of the SACRE. We are here to advise. It is the responsibility of the local authority. So looking at the action section there, we agree an agreed syllabus conference, we form it and its membership. We agree a plan on how and when and where they will meet. We're not creating an agreed syllabus from scratch, but from the advice from, that should read WASACA, by the way, not SACRE, in terms of adopting a framework. So that the work on this will depend on the initial discussion on the framework. And Phil, I was going to ask you to make just to amplify at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on at the moment regarding the hopeful adoption of the RVE framework. And so next week's meeting, or sorry, fortnight's meeting is really important in that, because if we can get that right, I feel that the agreed syllabus conference will be far easier, because in a way it will be adopting something that we've already had a look at and scrutinized. If we decide to go for something as an agreed syllabus that looks very different to the RVE guidance, then there is a danger that we go past. So a lot of consistency was as a result of the 2008 curriculum, all of the local authorities had adopted the exemplar framework as the agreed syllabus. So the consistency, if you move from Cardiff to Colwyn Bay or from Colwyn Bay to Carnarvon, it didn't matter which local authority you worked in, the agreed syllabus would have looked the same. And I think that's really important. It's one of the things that England envied Wales for. Now, if we decide that we want to go down a very different route for the agreed syllabus, which Welsh Government will keep us to account, because by law, we have to make regard to, and I know this make regard to is a very odd word. It's a very legal word, but basically it means we've got to basically accept the RVE framework, because if we can't do that, it's going to be very difficult to adopt the wider humanities subject. And so for this is why Welsh Government have made sure that the law states in regard to, and that therefore the guidance that they produce is something that local authorities will adopt through their ASCs. So this is such an important document to get right. Now, from historically, as soon as the agreed syllabus has been created, then comes the support material. And in a way, the support material is more important because what it does is it gives legs to the content that's in the agreed syllabus. So we've got this double edge really. The agreed syllabus, we may have our hands tied depending on what guidance comes out of WASACRE, but as a result of the agreed syllabus conference and as a result of what we adopt as an agreed syllabus, there may be some work then. Now, if local authorities 22 adopt a very similar agreed syllabus, then actually I've asked WASACRE to consider if they are going to be creating guidance material, that actually what's the point of 22 local authorities creating 22 separate sets of guidance? Why isn't there a combined steer from WASACRE on being able to support schools and local authorities in providing good quality training, good quality resources on the back of that? Yeah, so going back to the main point is the ASC may become a little bit more simpler than we think, because it may be just in a case of adopting something that we are really being encouraged by Welsh Government and possibly WASACRE to adopt.
Well, it'll certainly be really helpful to have that WASACRE input and guidance there, Phil. And I take your point, it'll make things a lot easier. Also to say as well that there's no, although we want the professional group looking at that, there's no desire to kind of exclude anybody, any faith representatives or other representatives who actually want to volunteer to become part of that. So it's not exclusive in that sense. Okay, to section C, to engage the services of our consultant who has expert knowledge of ORE, particularly the curriculum and its assessment, in leading this. So Phil will be a member of that. To establish a list of priorities to focus the review process and criteria by which to judge its quality. That will take place obviously in the initial meeting, and given what Phil's just said as well, there's going to be quite a bit of WASACRE guidance in relationship to that. And then to consider whether any proposed syllabus appropriately provides opportunities for examining spirituality, for reflection, and promotes an understanding of the major world faiths, especially Christianity, on which our Western culture is based. Also, an objective examination of the role of religion and belief in the modern world. And Hugh, that covers some of the things that we have been concerned that we might be losing, particularly from the national curriculum in this respect. And we wanted to give an opportunity to safeguard some of those aspects of the curriculum. And therefore, that's why that's in there. Yeah. Okay. And then to consider how best to provide guidance on assessment to schools in all sectors. Well, we're going to get all guidance coming from all directions there, from WASACRE, from the Welsh Government, from local authority, but also we felt to include the teacher network there, as they're on the ground. And then to organise a consultation with schools via questionnaire on any proposed revisions that we suggest, and we'll need to do that via a questionnaire that goes out to schools, and presumably, Phil, as well to governing bodies.
Yeah, we can work through Hugh for that, can't we, Hugh?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So any questions on any of those sections in 9? Or any points or additions or changes, amendments? No. Okay. Can we agree those on block then, please? Councillors? Thank you. Teachers? Thank you. Faith? Okay. All unanimously in place. So thank you for that. There's a lot of work going in. Sorry, Hugh, apologies.
Can I come back to the general plan again, and noting the discussion that we've had on the Welsh language and culture and heritage and so on. there may be a need to strengthen some of that in our plan, really, noting our responsibility in the light of the of LA policy, in the light of the West, and so on. I know that language is mentioned in the resources aspect of it, and that's down clearly there. But there may be something that we have a responsibility to keep an eye on developments regarding the Welsh language, culture, and heritage, and so on within all these aspects, especially with the development of the curriculum in 9 here.
Yeah, well,
So,
this is a framework for future work for us, Hugh. So
yeah.
can I make a suggestion, if that's okay? I'd like to suggest that you and Anes talk to each other with regards to this, and that you put together some some additions to this plan in the relevant sections, so that when we come to the next meeting, we can table those. You can explain the additions that we're putting in, and we can adopt them as appropriate at that meeting, and then it becomes part of the forward working plan. Okay, is that all right?
Yeah, was it Anes that said that she had a group of teachers and so on working together in the Welsh language? What, something like that was said, was it, Anes?
Yes, and obviously a member of the CYSAG in Anglesey and Gwynedd, like collectors, and we're working on those issues there as well. So if I contact you initially, and then we can share what we're doing and seeing whether we could make amendments and present that at the next meeting.
Yeah. Can you get them back? Yeah. Could you get them back to Phil and I?
Yes.
You know, well in advance of the next meeting, so that we can then discuss how best to incorporate it, present it, and circulate it before it goes out. Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for that. Okay. Well, a big thank you to all for your contributions on this one. And what I'm hoping is that obviously the qualifications that have been put down by Larry today about pace, that I do think that we've got a fairly sizable working agenda which has a particular direction to take us forward over the next few years anyway. And I'm really quite pleased that we've managed to establish that. So if we could move now to the minutes of the WASACRE meeting. And Phil, do you want to, you were at that meeting anyway, do you want, and Colette, you were as well, weren't you? No, you missed that one, did you? Okay. Phil, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, the minutes of the draft minutes from the March meeting. I'm not going to mention anything other than you can see the agenda items there, or the minutes. There was a meeting on Wednesday hosted by Powys, even though it was digital, it was still hosted by Powys. The substantive agenda item was the RVE curriculum, which we will have our own, and I'll be able to share a little bit more in detail regarding that. But also the professional learning was presented, and I've already mentioned that as well as part of the action plan. So really, I've got nothing to add. There's the RVE, the professional learning, and then the minutes are there.
Right. Okay. Any questions on those? I mean, your last meeting, you were very clear, dealt pretty well, almost wholly, with the new curriculum framework. So, okay, can I just add one thing then? Perhaps, as this is a WASACA agenda, I know that Sally, for the first time actually, issued to all of us the financial accounts for WASACRE for the last 12 months before this meeting. I think that's been previously kind of incorporated into WASACRE reports, but just to say, therefore, that comes to us because we make a contribution to the running of SACRE, and therefore they are of interest, obviously, to us, to ensure that they're being dealt with appropriately and with integrity. I'm not going to discuss them now, but Phil is obviously our representative on that group. Fundamentally, he might even be the new chair, possibly in the very near future. So if you have any concerns about the financial document there. If you could just feed those back to Phil, and he'll deal with them. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
I went on the CYSAG site and I was looking for the exact wording of the bill that was given assent. Is the copy of the bill that was given assent somewhere? Because I was looking at the background to humanism and the exact wording of the sentences of humanists and other groups sitting on sacres. So is that bill available somewhere quite easily to be found, or part of the bill or whatever? Because I failed to find it on the web on the Sacre site.
If you type in the, I forgot the name of the act, in the RVE consultation document, it's got the references in the act as to where they currently exist. It's the 1996 Act. I've got an issue with this because the 1996 Act states exactly what the 1996 Act states, but the amendments are for the Welsh interpretation, not interpretation, but it's the Welsh Act on, or the amendments on the 1996 Act. Now, the issue is that in the guidance, it refers to the 1996 Act, but England still relate to the 1996 Act. So it's only the Welsh amendment that is applicable to Wales. And I feel that that needs to be quite explicit. But if you can find that is sort of Act 1 brackets 26 close brackets or whatever, if you then Google Acts of Parliament, Education Act 1996, and find that paragraph, you can drop down menu amendments for England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, or Northern Ireland, and you can find the specific language relating to Wales on that particular. So the British, the reference to religions reflecting in the main the Christian tradition and the other principal religions is still in the Act. That doesn't change. So Christianity is the principal religion that has to be reflected in religious education. And then there is a subclause, a B, that talks about philosophical convictions. So humanism isn't mentioned directly. The reference is philosophical convictions, as opposed to religious convictions, because that's taken for granted. But you can see it in the Act. If you find the reference in the RVE guidance, find that on Google in the Act of Parliament, you'll see the amendments for Wales directly there.
Phil, Hugh's raised this because obviously we've got a discussion coming up in the near future about the whole of this issue. And I mean, I was quite surprised, but you shared what you've just told us all now with me before, and that surprised me as well. I personally, I don't know about other members, but I personally would find it helpful if you could provide some kind of summary of this, so that we've got an understanding of the 96 Act and the changes that the Welsh government are actually producing, and the language that expresses those changes, so that when we come to the humanism presentation and questioning and so forth and decisions to make there, we've got a better understanding of particularly how this very, I think for some people, yeah, it's an issue which needs careful consideration.
On the St Giles Centre website, there is a video that Libby Jones and other advisors have created to help teachers or whoever when they're writing a response to the Sacre, to this particular issue. I think that covers it. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at that video, and I might just signpost you towards that video because I think that's already done.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that, you know, you go on to the websites, to the humanist website and so on, you find you need the exact words. You know, one of the sentences said that philosophical groups, or whatever they're called, may sit on sacres. So the exact wording there will need to be known clearly to us when we're discussing these things.
Fortunately, the beginning of the RVE guidance almost acts a bit like the supporting guidance that we used to have for sacres and collective worship. So it's working like a 1096 circa document that we used to use to try and define what collective worship is and define what RE is. It doesn't involve collective worship, but the original document did. There is a nice discussion. We think it's a little bit too in depth. It needs to be put a little bit more in layman's terms, but the language of the Act and how it should be outworked within a sacre is included at the beginning of the RVE. So if you look at the RVE section on that guidance document link that I sent you, it will give you a really good breakdown of the language that's in the Act and then how that might be applied. So the phrase, like what you're adhering to here, is that we don't have to accept anybody on sacre unless we feel that it's representative of the people of Conwy, and whether that's a humanist or whether that's a Buddhist or whether that's a Christian denomination, we have to decide. Now we've discussed before that actually we can say that representation, if there's one Buddhist in Conwy, then actually having an understanding of Buddhism from our pupils as they go off to other cities is probably really useful. So we need to have that conversation a little bit later on as to actually, we don't mind how many people are in Conwy and they're represented on sacre. Actually, from a school's point of view, that representation is really important in a global sort of community. But that's a conversation for another day. So we might have representation, not because there are one or there are thousands of people adhering to that particular belief system. Actually, it's about an understanding from a school's point of view that there are a variety of views and beliefs, not just in Conwy, but in Wales and then the wider world. But again, that's for a future conversation. RVE, please go to that and have a look.
So when we have the discussion on humanism in the next meeting or so, we will just have the presentation and questions, and then we need to come back to it as a group without that person listening in. Yeah, am I right?
Yeah. Well, can I just clarify, because we've actually been down this road already, Hugh. I actually, if you look at the minutes of the last meeting, it says clarity was sought in relation to the purpose of the presentation by the humanist representative. In response, the chair advised that the humanist representative would be questioned in relation to the number of humanists in the county of Conwy, as members of Conwy Sacre were required to represent the local community. And it then goes on to say, further consideration will be given as to whether to include the humanist representative as a member of Conwy Sacre, and consideration would also be given as to whether to include the humanist representative as a full member of Conwy Sacre following her presentation. That's as opposed to as a co-opted member, which you might remember that Phil proposed historically and we agreed a few years ago, but was never taken up. So I hope that clarifies that. Phil, if you could send that link to Sally, and if Sally, if you could then circulate it to everybody, I think that would be helpful. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem.
I mean, the RVE link is already in the agenda pack, so it's in the
It is,
yeah, at the beginning.
It is, yeah. Sorry, is that the link you're talking about?
I'll send the St Giles link to Sally, and Sally can send that one on.
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to, because we've got the other one already. Okay, thank you. Well, we almost made it within the 2 hours. So thanks again very much for your contributions. And Sally, has Julia Buckley-Jones joined us?
Yes, Julia's here. Yeah.
She is here.
You should see her on your screen.
Oh, so I can, yeah, sorry. Julia, if you could stay on with Sally and myself at the end, I'd be grateful. Okay, but thanks everybody for your contribution today, and see you soon. Take care. Okay.
Roger, I'm going to have to end the meeting to stop the recording, but if you could just rejoin. I know that's complicated. I need to stop the recording. So if I end the meeting, it'll kick you out. You just need to come back in.
Okay.